So yeah. Okay.
It
All
may
right.
end up being that we just go with the other route. I'm not okay.
It says it's doing it. So
Okay, perfect.
yeah.
I'll double check and just make sure that it's going.
Okay.
I'm gonna mute myself, but I'll type in the chat if we need to
Okay, so we'll just go ahead and start.
Sounds good. Yeah,
All
let's
right.
let everybody in.
Go ahead, Mackenzie, and I will let everybody in.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the September 14th special meeting of the City of Ithaca Planning and Development Board, where we've got only 2 agenda items tonight, circling around one project, the Gateway property apartment buildings. It looks as if the team is all coming into the room, so I will say hello to everybody and hi, Brian, I see your face.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, good evening. Thanks to everyone, staff and volunteers and project team for making time tonight. I will personally apologize for not being able to make it last month. I had an unwell baby at home who's doing fine now, but I know that not having everybody made it very difficult to achieve the goal of giving you final approval last month. So we are moving forward this evening with that hope of doing that. So I think what we'll do first is take care of the subdivision. I don't believe there should be any controversy around that. We can take care of that. And then I'll ask you to give us a little bit of an update around the final site plan. And we can talk about some conditions. We have a resolution in front of us before we take a vote. But we do have a quorum tonight. So, hopefully we can resolve this in a positive manner. So let's start with the major subdivision. We've seen this before. Is there anything that you want to say before we move to vote on this or to discuss it?
Yeah, I think, and thank you, Mackenzie, and thank you, board, for doing a special meeting for us. I know you've got many other obligations, and we're very grateful that you're able to meet with us tonight. The subdivision is fairly straightforward in that we're subdividing property out of Gateway Center, and that will leave, 4 parcels, one of which is deeded to the city for the new retaining wall, which I'm not certain if that was conveyed and subdivided already, but it's already acknowledged on our subdivision plat. The second is a property that will be conveyed to Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity for a memorial that they plan to build next to us. The third is the existing Gateway Center, and the fourth then is our own parcel where we have our site plan and building designed. So the only other relevant piece of information, and this relates to the site plan approval as well, is that we, in order, to build to the property line that is shared between us and the Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity, we had to establish a public way on that shared property line that allowed our window percentage openings in that area of the building. So we have approval from Alpha Phi Alpha to do so. We have approval from your building official that would be a compliant condition. And we have, an understanding of this request from your city engineer, Tim Logue. We have a draft agreement for the easement that we'll be submitting to the city within the next couple of days that will memorialize the public way as an easement agreement to the benefit of the city and to to then go through a process by which we think takes the Board of Public Works to approve, and that will be on their agenda for their next meeting. So I wanted to clarify that. There were some questions about that last time, but we've advanced that effort since our last meeting.
And there is documentation of all of that in the agenda. They submitted documentation.
Derek, did you have a question about that? Oh, I
he's
saw
on,
you raising your hand.
he's on another meeting also. I think he was probably.
Wonderful. I didn't want to skip him. Good.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he's double teaming. Garrick, it might be easiest if you do have a question for us, you could maybe raise your hand with the Zoom reactions and I'll be able to.
Left hand versus right hand or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, thank you, Garrick, for juggling 2 city meetings tonight for us. So the let's see, I'm looking at the subdivision approval resolution right now, and it doesn't look, at the bottom of it, there are just a couple of conditions. They're not even conditions, just before certification, submission of paper copies of the approval plat showing the easements, and submission of the executed cross-property trail and drainage easements. And so allow me to just scroll down and get my own eyes on it. Is there anything else that we need for this, Lisa? If everything is executed, we just know that they're part of the record and.
They will submit those easements or the draft easements or the negotiated easements along with the subdivision and with the plat before we sign it. And I would just say that instead of no build, it looks like it's going to be a public way. So I would just change that to public way.
Yeah. Well, thank you for including all of the communications with Alpha, Phi Alpha, and Tim Logue and whatnot. So I'd like to do a quick round among the board to see if there are any questions or concerns before moving forward with the subdivision, knowing that we're going to take some more time to talk about site plan. CJ, I saw you shake your head no, you're comfortable moving forward. Mitch, no concerns. Garrick, any concerns? Okay, and that's all of us, right? It's the 4 of us this evening. Okay, then let's open this up and take a vote on it. Do I have a motion to open the subdivision final approval resolution? Mitch moves it. CJ seconds it. All in favor? Wonderful. That's unanimous. Garrick, I assume that's for us. Unanimous approval this evening of the subdivision. So that's all set. You got that? Thank you. And we will look forward to all of the executed easement documentation and whatnot. Let's move on to final approval for the site plan itself. We've got in the resolution a couple of conditions that we will want to talk about, but I think first I'll just hand it over to the project team to let us know if we have any, to let us know if you have any updates for us or things to consider. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about those conditions, and before we take a vote, we'll do a temperature check to make sure that everyone tonight is comfortable moving forward with the vote, knowing that you need to have all 4 of these yeses to be able to move forward. And we don't want to kill the project in the water voting without a larger body. So I'll hand it over to you. If you've got a presentation or updates, we are happy to review them right now.
Okay, great, Mackenzie. So I know that Garrick and Mitch have seen and heard this series of updates from us from the prior planning board meeting. CJ, I don't recall if you were not in that meeting, but you may have been in the PRC meeting prior to that. So you've seen a lot of what we're about to show again, and we'll be abbreviated. Mackenzie, I don't know that you've seen any of this, so I'll give you context to what we've done since over you have last seen us present the project. So as you know, we were pursuing a variance with the Board of Zoning Appeals over the last couple of months. We had challenges in getting the right quorum for a meeting of the BZA, given some departures in the change in the in-person meeting requirements, where we just didn't either have a meeting, they were canceled, or we didn't feel that we had what we needed to get the approval. So we went back knowing that that was going to be, maybe possible, but timing of it hard to predict. What could we do to build and design to a compliant kind of standard that would be, within the CBD 60 zone and not require a variance? And it essentially resulted in us reducing a level of the building. And that was made possible by kind of 3 key things, Mackenzie. One was an accommodation from Gateway Center to reduce their parking that we're providing back to them. And we reduced, excuse me, their parking from 156 spaces, I believe it was, down to 130, and that helped us in a big way. What that allowed us to do was to convert half of a level of parking into residential, and thus, not be as it was not as a dramatic of a change to the building, and able to absorb some of what we lost on the top level. The other change that we made was converting an area in the east wing of the building that was previously identified as storage units into residential units. And that again helped to absorb some of the loss that we took in removing the top floor. The building footprint, the access lane, the fire lane, the means of ingress, egress into the building from State Street, from the ground level, have not changed in any way. So for the naked eye, it looks as if we just took a floor of the building. The building footprint is identical to what it was before. It's just simply lower in height. So the net reduction of this change resulted in a reduction in units of about 10% and a reduction in parking of about 10%. But as we were able to get the accommodations from Gateway Center and make some of the conversions that I mentioned from parking or storage to residential, we have thus far been able to absorb the impact of losing the top level. So we came back then to planning board with this revised plan that did what I just mentioned, again, keeping most items fixed and just changing the building height for the most part. So we've got updated renderings, elevations, and floor plans to show you, which we'll do fairly quickly, and then can answer any questions or address any other items in the conditions of approval if you would like. So does that sound fair to you, Mackenzie and T? I don't mean to isolate you, but I know the others have seen all this.
You're right. I wasn't here last month, and I'm chairing tonight, so I appreciate the I appreciate the attention. Yes, that sounds perfectly fair to me,
Okay.
and I appreciate that. That sort of self-imposed mitigation. I know that there troubles with the BZA, and sorry about that. I know that wasn't convenient, and I think it's a really big shift for you to make this late in the game, and so I commend you for being willing to do so. And of course, also just happy to know that you've been able to absorb it, because that's not always the case. We'd love to see your updated renderings. We've got access to them through the agenda that was sent out. Please show us whatever you want to show us. And also, I think we might want to pay a little bit of time looking particularly at the wall, forgive me for not orienting myself well, but the you know what I mean, the wall at is it the east end?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yes. Yeah, I would love to just hear some more detail about that.
Okay.
But otherwise, yeah, please show us whatever you've got to show.
Okay, great. Donnie, I will turn it to you to take us through the slides or the exhibits.
Yeah.
Or Tim?
No, thank you. Yeah, Donnie's going to run through, but we can do this as quick as you want. Floor plans that some of you have seen before. We do have some new colored elevations. So yeah, go ahead, Donnie. Thank you.
Yep. So, can everybody hear me okay and see the screen?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, great. So we'll go through this fairly quick. As Jeff mentioned, it's a reminder for you, for everyone, that we have East State Street on the top or north, 6 Mile Creek, on the south of our project, and our building footprint has not changed with the floor reduction. And we'll quickly go through the floor plan. So on the bottom is where you can access the project from the fire lane that we have on the south side of the project with the entry to the parking. This, I don't know if you see my mouse, on the what we're calling east wing at the north side, we had storage units, but we've converted that into residential units to make up for the loss. And our parking circulates down towards left as you go down here. It connects to the screen on the top. So we've added a little more parking here on the bottom to make up for the loss again. As we go up a floor. So on the top is where we connect from the floor below. As we enter the parking, we come up and we have a little bit of residential on the west side as we had before. The east wing is our typical floor plate of the east wing for all the residentials. And then as we come up a floor again, this is where the parking deck terminates or ends. And then this is where we've infilled with the units at the west wing on the third elevated floor of the west wing. And then as we go up a floor, you can see on the bottom, or I'm sorry, as you can see on the top, this is a connection to the State Street that we've always had, which stayed the same, and everything else pretty much stayed the same from here on up, typical floor plates with the residential units at both west and east wing. And then these are some of the updated color elevations. On the bottom is what we have presented back in January. With total of 7 floors. Now we lost a floor, so we're a total of 6. On the right side, we have the west elevation. Again, on the bottom is what we had in January, and at the top is what we currently have. This is a view that ties into the public way discussion because we were so close. We had to update the percentage of the windows that we had at this particular location. We're right in front of the memorial site right here. And you can see what we had before back in January on the right versus reducing it to 25% opening on the left here. And then we can come back to the public way later, but this is what we currently have. And this is the south elevation, looking at it from across the creek. On the bottom, again, is from back in June when we had the updates. And the top is what we have with the reduced floors. And comparative renderings on the bottom is what we had back in January, and at the top is what we currently have. Views from the State Street. And again, comparative rendering of the west elevation and around the parking entry. On the bottom is what we had before. On the top is what we currently have now. And some of the various views around the site, around the project with the reduced floor. And that's it for the colored renderings. And another item that we had previously was, I'm trying to find the right button here. This is what we had submitted previously with the building materials noted on the rendered elevations, and this is what was submitted to the city as a physical sample. Since then, we're asked to provide additional sort of colored elevation, if you will, tagging all different materials. So this is what we submitted last week. And you can see that we currently have the fiber cement boards, the same brick that we had, the black fiberglass windows, and all the black metal trims wherever we have metals. Another exhibit that we had that we presented last time were the crash wall at the parking deck for the headlight cutoffs. We initially had 2'9", and we received a comment that may be too low for the SUVs, so we increased it to 4 feet high at all the parking levels. And then the last item that we presented were the mechanical units on the roof, and what the pedestrians would be looking at. So this is a roof plan of our mechanical drawings, and in blue highlighted, or the blue outline, represents our 3-foot parapet. So we've strategically placed all the mechanical items behind the parapet, so you only see like a little bit of it as you're walking, the top of it. So here at the top left, you'll see the key plan and where we're looking at. This is from the State Street. I'm looking east, up towards the east. You can see you can't really see any of the units. And this is another view from the State Street as well towards the west. You can see a little bit of the tip of the mechanical units here at the top. This view is further up the State Street. I mean, as you go further up, of course, you see a little more units, but you only see like top 2 feet of it. And then this is directly from across the street, the State Street. And this is a view from across the creek. I forgot the name of the street, but if you were to look, between the houses, this is what you would see on the top of the building. And that was that. And then, Jeff, do you want to go over the public way illustration here, or are we good? Or
Yeah, I think it's worth sharing again. You zoom out, this to our north is State Street. Bottom of the page is our building, and the shared property line with the Alpha Phi Alpha Memorial. What we have done is created a public way easement, again, to the city of Ithaca, that allows for the public to cross from the State Street sidewalk through the Alpha Phi Alpha Memorial. Sounds a little convoluted, but across a bridge and then into our own building's stair tower. This is a public stair tower for the parking garage, so it's functioning that way anyway. And then from there, have access to the creek walk. The challenges, and I think we all wanted this creek walk access to be further to the west and to come straight down from State Street down to the pedestrian connection to the creek walk. The challenge, as we evolved in our understanding of the surrounding site, is the electrical infrastructure that's there. You can kind of see it on the plan. There had already been a relocation of these services to make way for the city retaining wall, and to kind of build over that would be in violation of building code. And there was not a lot of interest in Gateway Center's part in Alpha Phi Alpha to move those facilities. So this was deemed the next best alternative to get the public down to the creek walk from State Street. So Alpha Phi Alpha's agreed to that. Building officials agreed to it again, and we'll be submitting the easements related to this here in the next few days.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jim and Donnie, for that presentation. If you feel complete in doing that, I'd like to do a round with the board and get a sense for these changes. And board members, I'll ask you to be very explicit about whether or not you feel prepared to vote in favor or in opposition of final approval tonight. And then maybe we'll circle to you, Lisa, for any final thoughts, and then we can open the resolution and talk about conditions. I'll start with you, Mitch.
Thanks. As I've said before, I'm totally ready to vote to approve the project tonight. But thanks for showing some new drawings, and I do have a couple of questions. I just actually, the first is a comment. I just want to reiterate the thought that it's a real missed opportunity for the creek walk. I feel a little bit disappointed by it, to be honest with you, and I feel like, I know money is difficult and infrastructure and moving utilities is difficult, but this thing's going to be here for a long time, and it would have been nice for folks to have a straight shot from State down to the creek. I hope the bridge and the stair tower from the garage are well lit, designed nicely, as nice as possible, so it's not what I'm imagining in my mind it to be, which is a kind of a typical conventional garage stair. So please work on that. Two other questions. One is, I noticed in the renderings that it looked like, and maybe this was just as you did the changes and removed the story, it looked like you took out 4 or 5 trees along State, along the north elevation. It shows up in a lot of the renderings, and I was wondering if that actually is your intent, or if that was just a graphic thing that happened along the way. I hope it's not the intent.
I believe that was just a graphic thing as we were trying to generate this to meet the deadline.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just to confirm that those trees are in. And then my final question is about the materiality, and I appreciated seeing the sample board and the keyed elevations. I just want to make sure the glass, I don't remember seeing a glass sample there, and I want to make sure that it's transparent, and the way you show your renderings, that it's not reflective and opaque.
Correct. It will not be opaque or reflective. It should be transparent.
Okay, thanks.
Great. Thank you, Mitch. CJ?
Yes, thanks. I echo the comments about the creek walk. Hopefully we find another way to get that financed and built. My questions are just about the resolution. Thanks.
Okay, great. And CJ, I'll just ask you, are you feeling close to prepared to vote in favor of this? Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Eric, are you in a position to share any thoughts about updated renderings and whatnot?
Yes, can you hear me well?
Yes.
Sorry, I'm balancing microphones. The good news is that the City of Ithaca Sidewalk Improvement District budget just got approved.
Woohoo.
And that was the key item on the other meeting. So the mayor now has excused me, and I'm here for the duration of the meeting, just exclusively here. As best as I could hear, I share Mitch's comment about the access from the street down to the water, but every project can't be a perfect project, and I think it's the best that can be done under the circumstances. More broadly speaking, I try to step back and look at the big picture and how the big picture maps up against the comprehensive plan. And I see a lot to like about this project. It's putting housing where we need housing, density where the plan calls for density. It's replacing a surface parking lot with housing we need. It's drawing attention to and providing access to a natural area amenity very close and walkable to the city. So for all those reasons, and in particular, whatever the motivation, the one thing that had been a little bit gnawing at me was the massing issue. And with the most recent change, I think that issue is significantly mitigated. And therefore, at this point, I'm ready to proceed with a yes vote.
Okay, thank you, Garrick. I share the sentiments of my colleagues, and so I feel ready to move towards the resolution. Lisa, is there anything that you would like to see the board consider before that?
I think I have some things I'd like to hear your comments on within the resolution. So
Okay.
Once you've moved that.
Wonderful. Do I have a motion to open the resolution for final approval? Mitch opens, CJ seconds. Wonderful. So let's move to the resolution. Does everybody have eyes on it, or do we need a screen share? Everybody's got a copy of it. Lisa sent us an updated version pretty close to the start of the meeting time, so it should be in the top of your inbox. And I think it's probably all what we've seen before. I want to move down to the yellow highlighted conditions requiring board review. So one of them is that plans, drawings, or visualizations showing proposed exterior mechanicals and associated equipment and any screening. We were shown those drawings tonight. Are there any open questions or concerns about mechanicals from anyone on the board? It doesn't look like it. Okay, wonderful. Moving forward. Now we've got a list of conditions that must be satisfied within 6 months of approval or the start of construction, whichever comes first. So one of them is submission to the board of all site details like exterior finishings, walls, railings, bollards, paving, etc., including lighting showing dark sky compliance. We have yet to see a lighting plan. Is that true? So that's something that we'll want from the project team. And I suppose I'll make a recommendation and the board can let me know if they agree with it, that these could be things submitted to Lisa that the board can review over email. Does that feel acceptable to board members?
And just for the board's knowledge too, we did have a chance to put that together. So we did send that electronically to Lisa. It's the photometric plan that includes the new matching fixtures to extend the creek walk trail lighting. That'll be the pole mounted lighting. And then we also had the exterior wall mounted fixtures along the face of the building. It was included in the last package, but that sounds like your plan of attack is correct, that if you move forward tonight, that plan exists, and any comments or questions we can address with staff.
Okay, wonderful. Lisa.
We can also add, if you want, for a sample of the glass, if that's a detail material. If that's important, we can ask for that.
Yeah, I'm seeing Mitch nod. He requested that. I have no objection. CJ, you've got your
Hey,
hand up?
Mackenzie, yeah, could we step back just a moment? I just occurred to me about the heat pumps and ventilation and all the MEP information. Can we just want to make sure that if anything with MEP changes to have, you know, any kind of ventilation onto public walkways or any kind of walkways, pedestrian circulation or access, that we know about it, because I do not want to make that mistake again. So.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what you're thinking of, CJ, but it makes me think of Seneca Way, right across the street. There's a
Didn't want
yeah.
to point fingers, but you know,
right.
there's
Well,
the
I think
blasting, you know.
yeah,
thing.
ventilation right onto the public walkway.
I just want to make
Yeah,
it staff approval's fine. It just, you know.
Yeah. So we could add to that previous condition. We could just say, you know, any changes to exterior, changes to exterior or information that wasn't previously shown, has to be submitted for approval.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's great that we could expect any changes to come through staff, and staff will share it with the board, and we'll discuss as needed over email probably.
Yep.
Okay, great. And so then submission of drawing detailing the gap between the retaining wall and the facade, the north facade of the building. I think that was addressed. Do we have sufficient, does the board feel as if we have sufficient detail with that piece of the project? Is there anything missing that anyone would like to see more of?
And I can just describe that while the board's thinking. There's an area between the building that I've talked with Tim Logue a couple times about within the last few weeks, which will be to raise the elevation of the gap so that there's not as much of a ravine, if you will, between the face of the building and the city's retaining wall. And he was amenable to that. And as far as the surface treatments go, it'd be a stabilized slope with ground cover and slope stabilization fabric within that area. So there'll be limited maintenance and area. So the plantings that we have on the landscape plan, the area between the building and the wall, again, is shown on the grading plan, and we've coordinated that in terms of the city's wall construction with Tim Lowe's office.
So did the plans that you submitted show the stabilized? They do. Correct. Show that. Okay. All right.
Yep.
Anything on that matter from the board around that gap on the north side? It doesn't look like it. Okay. Next condition is around the masonry terrace wall plans and materials. Did you show us materials for that wall tonight? I think you have updated materials about the building, but maybe you can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so on the site plan drawings in the last, actually submission for the prior iteration of the planning board, we did include a cross-sectional detail. So, and I'll describe the area as a whole, just to give you context, right? There's a site retaining wall along the north property line. That'll be a soldier pile wall with timber lagging, which was previously a different material, but aesthetically the timber lagging is going to blend more into the hillside because it is a heavily wooded area within the north slope and then off into the city's property as well. Within that larger timber site retaining wall, we've planted sky pencil holly, which is a vertical shrub that's deer resistant along the base of it to give some depth and landscaping from the bottom up. And then we've also included it's a star shower Virginia creeper, which is a vine, similar to poison ivy. It actually outcompetes poison ivy, but as you can imagine, it crawls up trees and down walls. So it will actually provide depth from the bottom or from the top down, to give a natural aesthetic to that timber wall. And then you will recall that there's a green area at the end adjacent to the wall where we have added, it's a precast segmental mass gravity block that will be faced with a natural stone aesthetic. And between the curb line and the terraced elevation of that block wall will be a slope that's also planted with ground cover. We have a blue rug juniper and then again the Virginia creeper to give more of a natural look to that and break up the verticalness of the face of the wall. So there'll be a curb line, a slope, there'll be a segmental block wall that has a natural stone aesthetic, and then another layer on top of it that's also planted with the ground cover. And we've shown that in our landscape plan and grading plan. And, as best as the rendering could do, we've represented the ground up sky pencil holly and then the Virginia creeper that would be planted along the top of the wall. And, the wall has a vertical exposed height that returns to 0, but the green space area that's not encumbered by the necessary fire truck turnaround would have those plantings within it. And in plan view, you can see there'll be a slope with the ground cover, and then that terraced area to give it a little bit more height so that it breaks up the vertical face of that wall. And then, the details that we've provided, I'm going to just scroll down quickly, is a natural stone aesthetic. This is a reversed concave, so it's a little bit different, but this is just an example picture of it. We have the bow in the other direction and the construction details of it. And there's a few different manufacturers. It's a proprietary wall system that interlocks itself. So it's a mass gravity system. There's Strong Stone and Ready Rock, different manufacturers, but they all achieve the same purpose of having a mass gravity wall that allows for that terraced area in the back. So hopefully that gives you a little bit more detail than what we had shown just within the landscape plans in the past.
And could you say how tall is that?
So the grading plan, so there's a slope that goes from the curb that elevates about 3 feet to the base of that wall. And then there's a 3-foot section of block. And then there's a slope that goes from the top of that block up to meet the timber lagging wall. So there's kind of a variation in the slopes. It's not just a straight face of the wall. We were trying to lay it up against the timber lagging wall so that we could reduce the perceived height of it, if that gives you a better idea. And did I freeze? Oh,
it looks like CJ might have frozen a little bit in a very pensive pose. Well, while we're waiting for her to maybe be able to respond to that, Mitch or Garrick, either of you have any thoughts or questions or concerns around that wall? CJ, we'll come right back to you in a second. You froze momentarily, but
Yeah, sure. I was just going to ask for. I remember with the hotel, there was like slope, and then people were walking down it, and it was like nobody was going to walk down it, but then they had to put a fence there. Just thinking like.
Yeah. So our
like
point
is
is
people
that,
going to jump and walk up the hill? I mean.
right. Our point was to make it so that it's not inviting to do that. Obviously, this is more of a landscape feature. So there is the wall that you see on the screen. That's the darker shade. That's that timber lagging wall. And what you see in this area is the curb line. And then there's that ground cover slope that goes up 3 feet to the actual vertical exposed height of that segmental block wall. And then on top of it, it's steep. It's not steep, but it's a 3-on-1 slope too. So it's not something that you would want to go sit on top of in terms of accessibility. It's more of a landscape feature so that people aren't climbing around it. Obviously, there'll be fall protection at the top of the vertical exposed height of the wall, right? So any of the residents that own property behind us don't come meandering down through here. I mean, it is already a fairly steep slope within that hillside, but you can see with the grading that it's not too inviting to have people trying to stage a picnic, I guess, on top of the landscape feature that we're trying to provide to break up that wall.
Some people might want to use that space just because it's there, though, whether or not it's inviting. So I guess that's something to consider, that if it were something that people wanted to scale for fun, it seems like safety and the durability of the materials and the plantings are something to consider.
Sure.
Mitch or Garrick, any questions about the retaining wall? No. Okay. All right. So moving to the conditions, and thanks for those questions, CJ. Submission of revised layout plan showing exterior bike racks for visitors.
So my
Yeah.
question here, my question here was to the board. You have done that. Was that, do they feel that there's enough exterior bike parking? That is my question. We never talked about that.
Right. We didn't talk about it. Can you let us know how many spaces there are for bikes? I'm trying to pull up the site plan also at the same time, but.
I'm trying to count it off the top of my head. So basically at every entranceway, we've provided the bike rack, which is the looped wave formed bike rack. And we also included the detail of that and the mounting details within the last submission, as well as to the number. I know we also had interior parking.
Right.
I think if it was a 7-place bike rack and we had 4 locations, it has to be upwards of 30 exterior bike parking spaces. Obviously, this is something where if there's a recommended number, I'm not sure there was actually a prescribed number within the code, but between, I think, what we have for interior bike parking and the exterior bike racks, there's plenty of opportunity as you approach each entrance to lock up your bike and have enough place for it. They're surface mounted 7-place waveform bike racks. So
I think the placement of them is, I mean, the number of course matters, but I think having them at every entrance is kind of the key factor there. So people aren't having to walk around the building looking for a place and end up locking their bikes to a street sign or something like that.
yes, yep, understood.
Other board members comfortable with the existence of external bike parking, knowing that there's internal parking for residents? Mitch is nodding yes. CJ, Garrett, great. Okay. All right. So we have one more highlighted condition to discuss, which is the detail of the plaza between the base of the stairs from East Street and the Creek.
And they did provide this, but I know some of you were very interested in it. So I didn't know if it met your, if you're satisfied with it or you wanted to keep working. That was really the question.
Yeah, it's worth, now is the time to talk about it. So does anyone have any strong feelings or questions about it or want to see it again? Mitch is saying no. Looks like CJ and Garrick are comfortable. We're comfortable with everything. Wonderful.
So that means those last three conditions that we discussed, the detail of the masonry wall, layout of the bikes, and the plaza can be removed. Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Complete. So while we have the resolution open, are there any further conditions that any board members would like the project team to consider at this time? CJ?
I just had a question about on page 2, there's a condition. I guess maybe it was a previous. I guess it was a condition of preliminary site plan approval, but issuance of required area variances. Are there any area variances or any other variances still outstanding?
There are no area variances outstanding, and I put a whereas in here before final that our zoning administrator reviewed it and it no longer requires variances.
Oh, okay. I must have just not keyword search.
There's a lot of whereases.
Yeah.
Okay, no worries. Thank you.
Thank you for pointing that out.
Yes, I appreciate it.
Yeah, Mitch.
Since we're kind of crossing the T's and dotting the I's here, I just have a couple of typos or whatever. I usually don't bring these up. I usually don't care, but I just feel like we should correct these. Cooper Carey is spelled incorrectly a couple times in the document. So I think it would be good just to get that right. Appreciate the work that they've done for the project. Another one is the word code is missing towards the bottom of page 2, section I.C. The last word in that sentence complies with allowable amount of openings in accordance with building code. Do you see it there? Yeah. And then the other one I had is on the bottom of page 3, that XVI about issuance of building permit, the applicant will submit documentation, and I'm not really sure, of off-site contractor parking, not in city garages. Is like not in city garages, should that be another dash or like in parentheses? And they're submitting and a parking relocation plan? It just, the wording is a little bit odd. I couldn't really follow that one.
Right. Before issuance of the building permit, the applicant will submit documentation probably of off-site contractor parking that is not located in city garages, as well as a parking relocation plan for current parkers is probably the sentiment. Yeah, Lisa, thank you for making those minor changes. Mitch, thank you for pointing them out.
Thank you for doing the whole thing, Lisa. It's just a huge document and a huge effort. So I really appreciate
There's
it.
still always typos. I don't know. So I do appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah, so many details to track. Definitely a lot of effort on this.
Lisa, I've got one, and I want Donnie to
All right.
confirm this. You know, I'm not being critical at all. Just, you recited our own information. As we have finalized our drawings, construction drawings, which are going to be published tomorrow, the unit count, I think, is now 321, Donnie. Is that correct? Versus 319?
Give me 1 second.
Okay.
Right. Accurate unit and parking counts will be really.
Yes, we're at 321 units.
Okay.
And parking, can I give it to you? Can I send you an email tomorrow, Lisa?
Sure.
For
Yeah.
final count?
Yeah.
Okay. Any final questions or needs on this resolution before we go to vote? It looks like we're ready. So all in favor of final site plan approval, please raise your hand. All right, and with a quorum, with just enough, you've got your unanimous vote tonight. You have final approval of your project.
Great. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you for everyone's work on this. I just want to say that I looked back to get the start of this project to write the final letter of decision, and you've been here with us a year, so.
I looked at the same thing today, Lisa.
So,
I looked at the same thing.
yeah. Yeah. So.
I'd like to think you'll miss us, but I know you're ready for the next phase.
Well, you know, we never were able to meet in person, and that's
I know
unusual.
that whole, yeah.
Wow.
So,
Well, someday.
Yeah,
For sure.
next time.
I think I actually went to one meeting 2 meetings ago, so I got the pleasure at least.
all right, right.
Well, you can all come to the grand opening. How about that?
Darren?
Yeah, sorry, I just was about to ask, one thing that we've done in the past that we've really appreciated, if you'd be oblige us, is it really helps for us at the end of construction to do a tour, because then we can
Yeah,
look back.
that's great. Yeah.
Were there concerns we had that were unfounded? Were there things that we didn't worry about, maybe should have worried about? So if you wouldn't mind, I certainly personally would really appreciate seeing the final project.
Yeah,
Glad-
and it's
glad-
much cause for celebration too when we reach that point. We do like to see everyone's efforts come to
I
shape.
bet Jeff would even rent you a unit. Karen.
You can stay there. Well,
Wonderful.
great
Well-
work, guys. Thank you for your efforts. And I know you guys are volunteers, and it's quite a commitment you make. So really admire what you do.
Thank you.
Right.
Thanks for all of your work. Thanks for working with us. And
Yep.
yeah, congratulations and best of luck moving towards construction.
All right. Thank you much.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Bye.
All right. there are no other items on the agenda.
Thanks for all the administrative work, Lisa. I know it's a ton. Thank you for doing it all.
Yeah.
And I know no one likes these, special meetings are inconvenient for everybody. But,
Yes, I appreciate that.
but,
So,
thank you for making the time.
well, thank you for being, that it takes it off the agenda for September, and then we'll give you more time, and so thank you.
Yep. Yeah, and thanks for not letting anyone else sneak into this special meeting either.
Nobody even asked.
Phew.
Yeah.
Great.
Thanks, Garrick,
Okay.
for double effort. Super
Yeah.
appreciate it.
yeah.
Thank you.
No, it's
sir.
okay. The sidewalk improvement got done, and this got done, and they're both important. This I hadn't realized until Lisa said it, but I mean, gosh, a year hasn't been invested. That's a lot of effort, all sides around. So it's good.
It is. I think that our schedule was originally like 9 or 10 months, but then the BZA delay really pushed it back a couple months, and so.
Well, it's impressive that a building of this size and scale only got pushed back a couple of months.
Yeah, it's a big building. It's a big.
And a pandemic.
Yeah.
Remember,
Yeah.
there's the pandemic thing.
Yeah.
Lots and lots of moving parts. We've
Yeah.
definitely seen some projects for longer. So
What
For
are,
sure.
what are the longest projects before the board? Chainworks?
Chainworks was a long time, but that was partially because, it just was a long time before, once you did the pause deck, it was a long time before they got their EIS in. And I think College Terrace was long too, but Chainworks probably the longest. And that was not because you didn't see them every month. Maybe it feels like that in retrospect, but there were long delays. Yeah.
Any
I
update
think,
on? any
Oh,
update on
North,
that?
yeah,
I'm
North
sorry?
Campus.
North Campus, that wasn't that
The
long.
Marriott.
though.
I
So-
think the Marriott took a long time.
It did. Well, that was years because they had several designs and they kept coming back. Yeah, that happens too. So
Herald Square was in the running too.
that's right. They came back many times with designs. Yeah,
Yep.
different designs.
Yep, and things lapsed that they had to re-up.
Oh, yeah. Site plan review expired.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Yeah.
Oh, good memories.
Yeah.
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 While on the topic,
Well-
is there any news on Ithaca Falls?
We are talking with them about something and about but I don't know his schedule yet. But we're talking about you remember it required a number of variances, and we've been revisiting that with him and the developer agreement. So hopefully that means so hopefully I'll have some different more solid news for you soon.
I'm curious about Library Place also. I feel like someone told us when we were in person that they were starting construction again in August or September, but
We keep
Yeah,
hearing
that was
about
in the
too.
paper.
Yeah.
do we know? Do we know what's going on?
I don't have an update on that either.
Yeah.
We
Okay.
do hear.
I mean, it's out of our hands now, but I feel like these are our little babies that we want to push out the nest.
I know.
So very invested in them. But well, with 6 minutes to go,
Oh,
there's no other pressing business. Anybody have anything they want to discuss before we adjourn? No. Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn? CJ moves. Eric seconds. All in favor of adjournment? That's unanimous. Wonderful. Thank you for your time. See you in a couple of weeks.
thanks for sharing. Nikki.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Mackenzie.
Thanks, Lisa.
Congratulations.
Vicky.
Thanks.
Yeah.
My pleasure.
Bye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good night.
Cheers.
Well done.